Today, we're diving into a conflict that is blowing up across the Middle East. We're only on day 6 of a wider war, and already Iran has launched a whole barrage of missiles and drones against its neighbors. It's pulling multiple nations right into the fight. So let's break down exactly how this is all unfolding.
You know, this quote from our source material, it just perfectly captures how serious this is. The fight isn't contained anymore. The whole Gulf region, it's now an active front line. The stakes, not just for the region, but for the entire world, well, they really couldn't be higher.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to tackle it in 5 parts. First, we'll set the scene with this widening conflict. Then we'll explore the 2 main fronts, what's happening at sea and what's happening in the air. After that, we'll look at how different nations are reacting. And finally, we'll talk about what it all means for a region that is absolutely on the edge.
So what's the big picture? Well, we're 6 days into a conflict where Iran is heading multiple neighbors. We're talking the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and others. This is no small skirmish, you guys. It's a full-blown regional confrontation. So what's Iran's logic here? Their official strategy is pretty clear. If they get attacked, they're going to retaliate against every single American base in the region. It's a kind of deterrence, really, but it turns any country that hosts U.S. forces into a potential target. And as you can see, the U.S. has bases in just about all the countries now under fire. This strategy is the absolute key to understanding why this thing is expanding so fast. All right, let's shift gears and move to the first major front line, the sea. The waters in the Gulf are some of the most critical shipping lanes in the world, and now they've become a theater for direct attacks. Our first stop is going to be in the waters right off the coast of Kuwait. This is where one of the first big maritime incidents was reported. So the UK Maritime Trade Operations, that's a British naval group that keeps an eye on things for merchant ships, they were one of the first to sound the alarm. They reported that a tanker just anchored there was hit by a huge explosion, and it caused an oil spill. The crew on board even said they saw a small boat speeding away from the scene. But, and this is a big but, here's where that classic fog of war starts rolling in. Kuwait's government came out and disputed the British claim. They said, hold on, that incident happened way outside our waters, like a full 60 kilometers from the nearest port. So right from the get-go, you have these conflicting stories, which makes it really tough to nail down what actually happened. Okay, let's head south to one of the most strategic, most important maritime choke points on the entire planet, the Strait of Hormuz. And, no surprise, it's also become a major flashpoint. So what went down here? A container ship was hit by missiles. The good news is the Omani Navy was able to rescue all 24 crew members. But right after, Iran made this incredibly bold statement, claiming they now had complete control of the strait. That's a direct challenge to the U.S., which had just offered to escort ships through that very channel. All right, now let's look up from the sea to the sky, because this war isn't just about boats and naval power. It's also being fought with drones and missiles that are flying across multiple borders, making the battlefield way, way bigger. And the geographic reach here is kind of staggering. The conflict has stretched all the way out of the Gulf to the Mediterranean island of Cyprus, which is home to RAF Akrotiri, a super important airbase for the UK and its allies. The UK's Ministry of Defense confirmed that a Shahed-like drone, that's a model of attack drone developed by Iran, had targeted its base. But wait, here's the twist. Officials in Cyprus clarified that the drone actually came from Beirut in Lebanon, not from Iran directly. And just that one little detail shows you what a complex web of proxies and alliances is fueling all of this. Okay, let's bring it back to the heart of the Gulf and turn to Saudi Arabia, which has found itself right in the line of fire from a whole series of drone and missile strikes. 3. That's the number of cruise missiles Saudi Arabia's defense ministry says it intercepted just south of its capital, Riyadh. This wasn't some random shot either. It was part of a bigger wave of attacks on the capital, and it prompted the kingdom to warn that it reserves the full right to respond. And look, here we go again with the same pattern of claims and denials. The United Arab Emirates put out this strong statement condemning what it called an attempted Iranian missile attack on Turkey. Iran, for its part, flatly denied it, saying they never fired any missile toward Turkey. So, of course, all of these military moves are having massive ripple effects. Let's take a look now at the diplomatic fallout and the very real impact this is all having on regular people across the region. Yeah, the diplomatic gloves are definitely off. In a phone call, Qatar's prime minister apparently just tore into Iran's foreign minister, accusing Tehran of deliberately trying to drag all its neighbors into this war. And for the people actually living in Qatar, This threat is becoming very real. After Iranian strikes started hitting American buildings, the government had to take action. They actually began evacuating residents who live near the U.S. Embassy in the capital, Doha, and finding other places for them to stay. So this shows you this isn't some abstract threat anymore. It's directly disrupting people's lives. And that brings us to our last section here. All of these different incidents, at sea, in the air, on the ground, they're creating this deep sense of instability. The whole region is completely on edge, just dealing with the cascading effects of this war. And what does that actually look like in practice? Well, just look at one of the world's biggest travel hubs, Dubai. The airport authority there has confirmed most flights are still suspended. They're telling people, don't even come to the airport unless you have official confirmation. We're talking about a massive disruption to global travel and business. So, to wrap up what we've covered, we've got a conflict that's just exploded onto multiple fronts, at sea and in the air. We've got this incredible fog of war where official stories are constantly being contradicted, so it's hard to know what's real. And most importantly, we have this widespread, very real disruption to civilian life, from people being evacuated from their homes to flights being grounded. And all of that leaves us with one really critical question. In a fight this complex with so many different players and so many conflicting stories, who is responsible or who even has the power to pull everyone back from the brink? It's a huge question, and there's definitely no easy answer. Thanks for joining me.